Hello everyone, I'm Saleha Singh and welcome to A Multicultural Affair. In Victoria, police are responding to 235 family violence incidents a day or one incident every 6 minutes. This means that for some people, home is the most dangerous place to be in. To talk more about domestic violence and mental health, meet my guest, Dr. Manjula O'Connor, a well-known Melbourne psychiatrist with her primary interest being in family violence and mental health, and Dr. Bindiya Sethi, a general practitioner. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having us, Celia. Such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Manjula.
inviting to this talk, Saleha. It's such an important topic.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Before we start with the questions, may I request you to please say something about yourself, the work that you do? Who wants to go first?
Okay, I can go first.
Okay, thanks,
so I am a psychiatrist. I'm a psychiatrist, and I've been a psychiatrist for 40 years. And the last 15 years, I started to look into domestic violence and suicide in the women from our country, which is South Asian countries. For the last 10, 11 years, I've been working on that in Australia, whereas my research was in India. So since then, we've conducted a number of research projects. I've seen hundreds upon hundreds of victims of domestic violence. I also help men who are victims, but also males who might have used violence against their partners to support them through rehabilitation and change. Currently, we are running a dowry abuse project. We led the dowry campaign in Victoria, and now it has become an Australian campaign. And your listeners might know that we have a law against dowry demands and dowry extortion in Victoria, which is what was part of a campaign that I led through our NGO, the Australasian Centre for Human Rights and Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Manjula.
So I am a general practitioner. I've been working in Australia for the last 15 years. My special interests are in women's health and children's health. So I see a lot of women starting from young age through pregnancy and then children and seeing the newborn and so on. So a lot of women and children come to my practice. I do that and have been in touch with Dr. Manjula O'Connor for some time about family violence, and I developed my interest in that when this program was going on, and we had a project from the local PHN about running a pilot project in the West. I think it was 4 years ago. About family violence. Yeah.
Thank you. Carol, thank you very much for your comment. Because of the nature of this program, I am not going to really read out any comments if anyone puts one in. So if you want to ask either Manjula or Bindiya any questions, please feel free to do so. I am not going to show your names on the screen, so you are going to be confidential. Thank you. Manjula, family violence or domestic abuse, whatever you want to call it, is a universal problem. A lot of work has gone into it. However, this violence has increased during this COVID-19 times. Why do you think this is happening?
So, as you said, family violence is a problem that occurs in every single part of the world. There is no country where the family violence doesn't occur. and it occurs in every social class, every cultural community, and there is no one who's spared. Um, and of course, the women would know. It's been happening for thousands of years. It's been with us forever. Now, you are trying to change a pattern which has been with us for so long. And that pattern is become like a part of a unconscious thinking. And to change that takes time. So that is attitudinal change, and that is called primary prevention. So we are now trying to do primary prevention. And the good news is that for the last 30 years, the governments have realized in the whole world that yes, this is a problem. We cannot sweep it under the carpet. It cannot be behind closed doors anymore. It cannot be just a personal home issue. Women are getting killed as a result of this. It is a human rights issue, it's a health issue. And so every government in the world, particularly our own Australian government, is putting in a huge amount of money towards preventing this problem. And so prevention, primary prevention programs take a lot of time to change attitudes. Now, when the seatbelts came in, when the seatbelts first came in 1970, I was a intern, a junior intern, and I remember I was working in the spinal unit, and the seat belts became compulsory. It took a very long time for people to adopt that because you had to change the attitudes. When the smoking became known as a problem, it took 25 years to change that attitude. And domestic violence is far more complex, far more tricky situation. So we all have to continue to support our women who are trapped in those situations, and also hope that men can reach out for help when they are feeling the need to use violence against their partners. Thanks.
Thank you. Bindiya, what are you seeing most in your practice?
So, Saliha, mostly in my practice, I see a lot of young women, as I said, of the reproductive age group, and when they come in with any sort of medical issues, mostly they come in as a family or with someone, and also many times I've seen that the kids have grown up as well, and then women start presenting with a little bit of anxiety, and then when they have their medical issues, while addressing those, I find out that there's something going on, because the woman has to really get an approval from her husband, I would say, to check whether she can do a certain procedure, or whether she can have a certain test on a certain date. She would have to check the schedule, and she's a lot more dependent on decision making on her husband, rather than actually making her own decisions, and especially about her own health as well. So with the young women, what I see is that, say, some women who are not, some families who are actually not, say, for example, who don't have Medicare cards here, and they have only private insurance, and they arrived in Australia not long ago. So when they're newly married, say for the last 2 years or even 3 years, and they get pregnant, even though the woman, she's happy to be pregnant, but at the same time, she comes in with the husband, and they're talking about, because of their issues with finances and their visa problems and everything, or even just the husband's decision that at the moment we don't want to continue with the pregnancy. I've seen a few few patients where the woman is continuously crying during the consultation because she actually does not want to terminate it, but because of the pressure from the family and the husband, she has to go ahead with the termination. And with, say, for example, families with children, even who have been here for a long time, children, sometimes you feel that children's appointments and dependency on the father, permission from the father about what needs to be done, what can be done, when it can be done, or whether we are going to do that or not. So there's a lot of dependency over that, and that indicates a lot of control what the man has over the woman and the children.
And then we have series like the Indian matchmaking, where all the women have to be flexible and adjusting. This is my pet hate. I think somebody is trying to get in touch and watch this program. They want to know, I don't know who it is, but somebody says, how do we tune in to watch Manjula O'Connor? Please like our pages and you'll be watching. I have no idea who sent the message, and I shouldn't have, but somebody's obviously wanting to see the program, and I hope they can. Otherwise, it will be on YouTube. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to say about Bindiya that what Bindiya said was that it shows is the unequal power between the man and the woman. And research, I mean, it's taken us 30 years of research to find out what is the root cause of domestic violence. There are hundreds upon hundreds of factors that people thought caused domestic violence. Somebody said alcohol, somebody said poverty, somebody said migration, somebody said stress, somebody said mental health. And what we now know is that all of those factors are not the root cause. The root cause of this is the power imbalance between the two people, and especially between women and men in heterosexual relationships. Because when there is one person who has a lot of power in decision making, power of resources, power over money, that power is open to abuse. It's like having a dictator. I mean, we know countries with dictators, they are open to abuse. It's exactly the same in the family. And one young person said to me, but somebody in the family has to make a decision, and it is usually the man. What's wrong with that? Because somebody has to take a lead, and because men are people who are more educated, then they take the lead. They know more about money, they know more about everything, so they take the lead. What's wrong with that? Other people follow. Well, what that shows is that there is such a lack of understanding about what can be done, and in a situation which is genuinely democratic, which is genuinely where the power is genuinely shared between family members, and the decisions are made jointly, so that everybody who's going to be affected by that decision is going to have a say. Now, Bindiya's patient, she wants to keep the pregnancy. The husband doesn't want to keep the pregnancy. He's thinking more about the money, his immigration status, whatever. She is thinking more about, I'm a mother, I could never abort my baby. So totally different ways of coming to the decision. And so they both need to sit down and say, okay, let's talk about the pros and cons here. Not, I say, you're going to have an abortion, therefore you have an abortion. So, it is something that takes a change in attitude to know that families don't only need a male head. A family can be run by a system that is more empathic and understanding of everyone's needs. And that's a situation where abuse of power is unlikely to happen, where there is respect for each other, and so that there is no abuse happening.
So, in today's day and age, when I hear this, Bindiya,
Yeah.
our young men and women, haven't they heard of protection? I don't know if I should say this, but we are living in the 21st century, and no matter where you come from, I mean,
So there is a lot of education that is needed in such age group or populations, the newlyweds. But at the same time, I don't think that they actually think far enough about what's going to happen, because there is lack of planning, basically. So what they are looking at is the goals, how they're going to get settled, how they're going to buy a house, how they're going to get a permanent residency, or if they are already permanent, they're still kind of more focused on financial things and more material things. Lack of planning is something, so they don't foresee that if they don't say use contraception, then they are going to get pregnant. And what if they get pregnant? Are they ready for that pregnancy? But that is something that they really need to plan ahead. So that's what they're not doing. And because such a young population is usually healthy, they don't visit the doctors that often, where they could be educated about. Because if someone visits a general practitioner, the general practitioner, as a preventive care, they usually talk about what medications you're taking, any form of contraception you're using, do you have any plans of pregnancy and everything. So that is all discussed. And if there is a visit to the doctor, and especially if the female visits, these are discussed in detail, and then they could actually plan accordingly. So it is very important that they kind of think about and plan ahead about every aspect of their life, and not just thinking about the financial part of it.
okay.
Yeah. So, Salia, it might be a good time to discuss different types of abuse that can occur in domestic violence.
Yes, please.
So the physical violence is one that everyone knows about, right? So that's hitting, slapping, shoving, pushing, pulling hair, and threatening to hurting someone, or threatening to hurt them, threatening to kill them, putting their hands around their throat. That is something everyone knows, and that person's life is at risk, and they have to ring police at 000 000. Less well-known forms of domestic violence is emotional abuse, and in that also is something called coercive control, and in that is also fear. So if there is a woman who is feeling fear, and who is constantly being told how to live her life, how to do things, who she can see, who she cannot see, where to work or not work, or what to eat, when to sleep, whether to have a baby or not. That is coercive control. And coercive control is something, imagine if you're living in fear day in, day out, how it will affect your brain. It is a very traumatizing experience for the brain. And so, somebody who comes home from work and she's told, you are too late, and why are you wearing this? But okay, she puts up with that, goes to the kitchen and starts cooking. don't do this, do that. Why didn't you cook my food early? Why did you cook late? Why is there too much salt? Why there isn't too little salt? Why is it's not tasting? Picking up the food and throwing it in a rubbish bin because it doesn't taste good enough. And she's gone through so much trouble to cook, but then walking out of the house because going to get food from a restaurant because I don't like your food. All of that, if it is happening on a daily basis, that is domestic violence. And the trauma it will cause is anxiety attacks, panic attacks, depression, feeling hopeless, and losing a sense of self-worth and losing one's sense of personality. That is a mental health damage. The other form of domestic violence is sexual abuse. So sexual abuse, like Bindiya said, is not planning or forcing sex on a partner when she's not ready, and then having an unwanted pregnancy. And then some of that also means sexually transmitted disease. So a fourth form of domestic violence is financial abuse, meaning financial abuse means somebody whose income is controlled by their perpetrator. So everything she earns, she doesn't get to spend, but the perpetrator takes control over it. And that money disappears. Where it goes, she doesn't know. That is against the law. The person who earns the money, it is their decision how they spend it. Nobody else can control that money because that is called slavery. It's called modern day slavery. If you take someone's wages, that is modern day slavery, and that is against the law. And came the dowry abuse as an example of financial abuse. So demands for dowry, demands for money in a new marriage is called dowry, and that is against the law in Victoria and in Western Australia, and it is being closely monitored by the government everywhere in Australia, and all the service providers know about this. So these are the kinds of abuse, and the less well-known one is religious abuse, where somebody is not allowed to practice religion in the way they would like. And the manifestations, how this domestic violence actually shows itself up, the GP will see it first. So the GPs, like Dr. Bindiya, are the people who frontline people who are seeing these people every day in their practice. And this is where it becomes quite important for the GPs to be totally aware of what being or how a clinic. Yes, thanks. Over to you, Bindiya.
Bindiya, we can't hear you because you're on mute.
So sorry, yeah. So Saliha, you asked us today that a lot of the audience is multicultural here, and you would like me to speak a bit of Hindi and Punjabi also to convey the message in that. So as Manjula said, financial control is a lot that I see, and women don't actually realize that. So family में the lady is expected कि वो काम पूरा करे, बच्चे भी संभालें, घर का काम भी करें और बाहर काम करके पैसे भी कमाएं, और वो जो पैसे आए वो एक जॉइंट अकाउंट में आए जिसको यूज करने का डिसीजन जो है वो सिर्फ हस्बैंड का हो, क्योंकि वाइफ जिस भी लेवल पे काम कर रही हो, जितनी भी एजुकेटेड है वाइफ, फिर भी उसको इतना समझदार फैमिली में नहीं माना जाता कि वो घर के बड़े डिसीजंस ले सके, जैसे कि पैसा कहाँ यूज करना है, कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करना है, प्रॉपर्टी कोई लेनी है या इन्वेस्टमेंट किसी और तरह की करनी है। तो वो एक स्टीरियोटाइप्स इस तरह के बन चुके हैं कि जो द मैन इज द पर्सन हु हैज द डिसीजन मेकिंग पावर इन दैट। और कुछ इस तरह के भी मैंने फैमिलीज देखी हैं जिसमें women are earning really well, और फिर भी वो जो पैसा जो उनका आता है, जो उनकी इनकम आती है, उस पे the man has the control and she's not actually allowed to ask कि उसका क्या किया जा रहा है, क्या हो रहा है। ऐसा नहीं है कि उसको पैसा खर्चने से रोका जा रहा है या शॉपिंग के लिए उसको मांगना पड़ता है या कुछ ऐसा, क्योंकि कुछ फैमिलीज में ऐसा भी होता है कि women have to ask for money to actually spend on themselves, even for their essentials, bare essentials also. लेकिन कुछ फैमिलीज ऐसी भी हैं जहां उनको ये मांगना तो नहीं पड़ता, दे हैव देयर कार्ड्स एंड देयर डेबिट कार्ड्स और समथिंग, बट दे स्टिल कैन नॉट कंट्रीब्यूट इन द डिसीजन मेकिंग, एंड उनको ये अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं दी जाती कि वो घर के बड़े डिसीजंस में पार्ट ले सके। सो फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोल एक बहुत बड़ी बात है जिन पे विमेन एक्चुअली रियलाइज ही नहीं करती हैं कि ये फैमिली वायलेंस का पार्ट है। उनको लगता है कि वो दे बिलीव इट, जो उनके दिमाग में शुरू से डाला गया है कि ऐसा ही होता है। और टाइम्स हैव चेंज्ड अ लॉट, एंड आई थिंक विमेन जितनी उनकी इंटेलिजेंस है, जो उनकी पावर है, उससे उनको वो एक रिस्पेक्टफुल रिलेशनशिप मिलना चाहिए कि ओपिनियंस शेयर कर सकें, व्यूज अपने शेयर कर सकें फैमिली में, और उनके ओपिनियंस और व्यूज की रिस्पेक्ट भी हो। आई मीन दे शुड अग्री ऑन हाउ टू डिसएग्री रियली। सो उनके ओपिनियंस की रिस्पेक्ट होना बहुत जरूरी है। लेकिन बहुत ज्यादा फैमिलीज में इस तरह से है कि विमेन के ओपिनियंस की और उनके व्यूज की कोई वैल्यू नहीं है।
Thank you, Bindiya. This one, Bindiya, is for you. I think we've talked about it a lot. So even if a woman is suffering domestic violence, she can't share her plight because she's with her perpetrator when she comes to visit you. What message do you have for them?
So that's a difficult one. I wouldn't want to give away too much on this, but
and that's understandable.
हाँ, but ये है कि they should know कि confidentiality और privacy जो है medical practitioners के साथ ऑस्ट्रेलिया में, that is the main important thing. So this is a very important part of medical ethics in Australia, especially that अगर आप अपने जीपी के पास जाते हैं, आप उनसे अकेले में बात करने की रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं और आप उनसे अकेले में मिल सकते हैं। आपकी कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन किसी के साथ भी शेयर नहीं की जाएगी, इवन अगर आपके फैमिली मेंबर्स भी सेम जीपी के पेशेंट्स हैं, तब भी आपके किसी भी इंफॉर्मेशन का, किसी तरह का कोई हिंट भी फैमिली मेंबर्स तक नहीं जाता है। So all the medical practitioners in Australia follow these medical ethics very strictly. और ये बात हमेशा ध्यान में रखें, क्योंकि ज्यादातर लोग इसी बात से डरते हैं कि अगर ये बात बाहर निकल गई तो। So that does not happen. You should be assured that confidentiality and privacy is very important part, and talk to your GP when you can. दूसरी बात ये कि एक अच्छा फ्रेंड सर्कल आप अपना जरूर रखें। So it is very important to have your own friends, your girlfriends especially, जिनके साथ कुछ आप शेयर कर सकते हैं, and the trustworthy people that you can share your thoughts with and what you're going through. और कभी भी किसी तरह की कोई हेल्प हो तो उनके थ्रू आप कुछ हेल्प लें या कुछ ऐसा। नेवर कट ऑफ योर सर्कल। कभी भी आप प्रेशर में आके और हस्बैंड या फैमिली के प्रेशर में आके या कहने पे नेवर कट ऑफ योर फ्रेंड सर्कल, because that's really important to have a circle, a social circle for yourself. Because usually what we see is families have a family circle where they all know each other, a family as families. But it is important to have your own personal circle as well, where you can, if not share your thoughts with everyone or share what you're going through with everyone, but at least you can have some peace when you can feel safe to be with someone.
Manjula, for many women, this is like a vicious circle, you know. They have seen their grandparents do it to their grandmother, the father do it to their mother. And so something like, you know, what Bindiya just said, financial abuse, or, you know, throwing away food. This is something they've grown up with. How do you change the mindset of these people that this is actually not acceptable and they should learn to stand up for themselves?
So, you know, we are all from India, Indian subcontinent, most of people who are listening to this. So people would know that we've had women who have gone to the moon. We have women who are flying aeroplanes, and we have women who are doctors and surgeons and engineers. And so what is wrong? If women can be mathematicians, why men cannot wash dishes? Do you know what's the problem? What's so hard about washing dishes? What's so hard about women who are educated women to remind themselves of their own confidence in feeling equal to the man? You know, the women also have to take responsibility for themselves. You are educated. As a woman, you have migrated, come away thousands of miles away from home. Itni to himmat kar li, right? You did that. Just take another step and feel like you have a right to be equal to your husband. When you are a mother and you have a girl and a boy, make sure that you give equal respect to your daughter as much as you do son. And you make sure you make your son wash the dishes like you do your daughter. That is the duty of all of us. That is the only way we will change. We're not going to sit
and as
here
women,
and
we have to
change.
change it, isn't it? Yes.
Absolutely. We're not going to sit here and be passive. Agar hum passive hote, nothing will have happened. It was in 1960s when the feminist Gloria Steinem in the US got up and said, no more. No more are the women going to be beaten behind closed doors. No more are the women going to be the doormats for men to walk on. And that is what moved the whole of the world and women in Australia and women in India to stand up and say, we have human rights. And as Hillary Clinton declared in Beijing in 1995, she said, human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. We are equal. We must grab it. Don't sit there passive. बैठे मत रहो, रो के, डर के, हिम्मत लो, friendship networks रखो, break the silence, right? कितनी बार मेरे को लड़कियां कहती हैं, एक लड़की कहती है, मैंने गुरुद्वारा जाना बंद कर दिया, right? I stopped going to गुरुद्वारा. मैंने कहा क्यों? Why'd you do that? That's your network. She said, I'm divorced. I'm a victim of domestic violence. If I go to Gurdwara, people will talk about me. They will gossip about me. I said, so? What will happen then? फिर मेरे से कोई बोलेगा नहीं. No one will talk to me. I said, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. There will be one person or two people in that Gurdwara who will have you as a friend. Be brave. Break the silence. When they ask you, why are you here alone? Don't pretend. Don't say my husband is on working interstate. Don't bullshit. Be honest. And tell the person sitting next to you when they ask you, where's your husband? Tell them, I am divorced because I am a victim of domestic violence. See what happens. So she did, right? This is a true story. So she did. And she said, I did what you said. Dar dar ke main gayi to sahi. And then I told them what happened. And I was so surprised. They were so supportive. Junai, we have to break the silence. And the more we break the silence, the more change we will see. We as women, we are holding this whole thing up. We're continuing the cycle of domestic violence by keeping silent and saying it's okay. It's not okay. Nobody has to put up with violence. Nobody has to put up with abuse.
Thank you. This question is for both Bindiya and Manjula. What message do you have for young women who have migrated recently, are dependent on the husbands and may not know the language? And many times they don't know the language. They don't know who to go for help, what to do.
So one thing is, as Manjula just said, that have a friendship network. There are a lot of local support groups available, and especially through religious places also they have support groups available. There are a lot of medical practitioners from the countries and speak the same language. They could actually approach them and discuss their issue with them, and any one of them could actually guide them to the local group, and also the local Australian numbers as well, where they could actually get support.
I've actually shared those numbers. Yes, I've shared the numbers.
Yep. So what they need to know basically is what are their rights, because when they come to Australia and they're new to Australia, they have no idea what their rights are and what they should put up with and what they can stand up to, really. Family violence is a very important issue, and it should not be tolerated. बहुत लोग ये सोचते हैं कि अगर मैंने इसके बारे में आवाज उठाई या मैंने कुछ बात करी इसके बारे में तो ये और ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगी. And in many cases it does, because the partner who's there, he doesn't like it, and it can actually increase. But at the same time, if you don't, it is going to increase anyway. So you have to stand up for yourself, find what your rights are, and don't be scared, don't be afraid, don't be fearful. You've come here with someone to be safe, to live your life, and you should feel safe. If you're not feeling safe, then you need to do something about it.
Bindiya, may I please request you to translate the whole thing in Hindi or Punjabi, whatever. Yes, thank you.
जी. So ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਨਵੀਆਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਵਿਆਹ ਕਰਾ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੱਕ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ. ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਬੈਠਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਵਿਆਹ ਕਰਾ ਕੇ ਆਈਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਬੈਠਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਪਰਮਾਨੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਜੇ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਪਸ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਦਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਇੰਡੀਆ 'ਚ ਡਿਵੋਰਸ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਟਿਗਮਾ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਮੰਨੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਵਾਇਲੈਂਸ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ 'ਚ ਟੋਲਰੇਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ। ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੈਲਪ ਗਰੁੱਪਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹੈ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਪਰੋਚ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਨਰਲ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟੀਸ਼ਨਰਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹੈ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਹੈਲਪ ਮੰਗ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀਆਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਵੇਟ ਹੈ, ਕੌਨਫੀਡੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ। ਸਿਰਫ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੈਲਪ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੰਸੈਂਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਅੱਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਗਰੁੱਪਸ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵੀ ਹੱਕ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਆਪ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਣਾ ਪਏਗਾ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਆਪ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਲੈਣੀ ਪਏਗੀ, ਬਟ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੈਲਪ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ। So don't feel alone. अपने आप ਨੂੰ ਕੱਲਾ ਨਾ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰੋ. Come and talk to us.
Thank you. That's my dog barking. Yeah. Somebody's walking on the road. So, Manjula, do you want to say something for young migrant women?
Yeah, definitely. So the most important thing to remember is that if you are a victim of domestic violence, you will not be deported back to your country if you're on a pre-visa or you're on a partner visa. The government of Australia has got special laws to protect women who are victims of domestic violence. Never ever believe your husband if he says, I will deport you. He cannot deport you. He cannot deport you. You just have to ring the police or ring 1800 Respect and report it. You will be given a visa to stay in Australia. There is a special law to protect victims of domestic violence. Okay, and so then there are services available for every single language group. And all you need to do is to Google, or you just ring 1800 Respect. They will tell you, or you can ring the government website.
I think it's also on Vic Police's website, if I'm not mistaken.
If you go on to Victorian Multicultural
website, domestic violence website also, and they have all the numbers there also.
Yeah, so there is a VMC website, there is DSS website, but easiest to remember is 1800 Respect. You can go to the website and you'll find everything you need to know. And when you go and speak to your GP, they don't have to be from your own country. They will get an interpreter. They can get an interpreter on telephone to talk to you. And so any doctor can talk to you. So if you, agar tumhare ko koi bhi problem ho rahi hai, just go to your GP. Unko bas batana hai ki mere ko ghar mein problem hai. You only have to say this. They will do the rest for you. Is that right, Bindiya?
Yes, that's absolutely right. So if you speak a different language other than English, you can actually go to a GP who speaks English and they can actually arrange an interpreter on the phone for you. All you have to tell them is that I have a family problem and they will organize an interpreter for you. So ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਬੋਲਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਫੋਨ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਟਰਪ੍ਰੀਟਰ ਉਹ ਅਰੇਂਜ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਔਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਫੋਨ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜੀਪੀ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਇਹ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਸਾਰਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ। ਸੋ any general practitioner, they will help you.
Thank you. This question is again for both of you. Even if a woman is financially independent, she undergoes domestic violence, and Manjula touched on this. but she won't and can't get out of the relationships due to societal and community pressures. And we know about how people judge or don't judge. What would you say to them? Because sometimes children are involved. So,
Yeah.
again, who would like to take it first?
Yeah, I can take it first. So the most important thing for a woman like that is to make sure that you feel strong within yourself. So you will notice that people like that, in fact, people who are in that situation, जो इस situation में है, जो feel करते हैं कि वो trapped हैं, जो कि शादी से निकल नहीं सकते, उनको जरूर एंजाइटी होएगी, डिप्रेशन होएगी, रात को नींद नहीं आ सकती, या भूख नहीं लग रही है, वेट लॉस हो रहा है, कुछ करने का मन नहीं करता, देयर इज नो प्लेजर इन लाइफ. तो they are all symptoms of anxiety and depression, so they need to get help. So once again, first port of call is your GP. The next one after that, the GP will refer you to your to a counselor, and then if you need more in-depth therapy, then you see a psychiatrist. So the kind of therapy I do is actually trauma therapy, and that is basically to help people recover from the trauma of the abuse they are going through. And I do that in Hindi and English, and also based on our own culture. But these women, the second thing these women need to do, अगर तुम शादी में फंसे हुए हो और निकल नहीं पा रहे हो, so make sure you have support networks around you. So you have girlfriends, you tell people at work, you go to self-help groups. You can actually go on Facebook, and there are lots of groups now on Facebooks that you can join. You can make sure that you are friends with your neighbors, so that the neighbors that you can feel that you have a common sort of a relationship or interest with. And maintain contact with your family back in India or back in your own country or even here. So those things will protect you in the long run. And so important to have a stable, steady relationship outside of your marriage. It's very important, and that is what will save you in the end. Thanks.
Bindiya?
Yeah, so basically all of it that Manjula just explained. One other thing that sometimes if we don't need to escalate too much of that, then relationship counseling is available as well. Most of the people don't understand that they don't get it, that there is relationship counseling available as well, because they feel that they don't actually need counseling. But both the partners, I think, they may not be actually aware actively that this is what is family violence going on, because they just have some beliefs which have been carried on from the families and the society as well. So I think both the partners need to be educated, and that there can be a change also. One thing that I would also want to touch on is that children involved in family violence as well. अगर वो डायरेक्टली भी इन्वॉल्व नहीं होते हैं कुछ एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ फिजिकल वायलेंस और इमोशनल वायलेंस, लेकिन जो वो देखते हैं घर में, उससे उनके ब्रेन पे बहुत इफेक्ट पड़ता है. तो अगर आपको लगता है कि नहीं बच्चे सेफ हैं और दोनों पेरेंट्स का उनको वो चाहिए, सपोर्ट चाहिए, ये सब, लेकिन आपको साथ में ये भी सोचना चाहिए कि उनके ब्रेन पे क्या इफेक्ट पड़ रहा है. सो व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ इफेक्ट दे हैव ऑन देयर डेवलपमेंट, बेसिकली देयर इमोशनल डेवलपमेंट, बिकॉज in the long run they could actually have anxiety and depression. They may find it difficult to deal with relationships when they grow up. So wo sabko dekhte hue, if this if the couples actually get some support and they get some education and counseling about that, so बच्चों के future के लिए और उनकी physical and mental health के लिए बहुत अच्छा रहेगा.
Thank you. Manjula, how do we break this chain?
So yeah, I just do want to make a point about counseling as couples counseling. You need to be careful about that, because where there is power imbalance, when there is somebody who has so much more power than the other person, couples counseling can become quite unsafe. Because what she might say in that situation, she goes home and then she gets beaten up. And so it really is much better for that man to go and get a separate counseling, and more like help from men's helpline. That is a more a safe option, or to join a men's behavior change program. So the other thing is that women they should know that they will have counseling and support for as long as they need, whilst they are in that marriage, right? So they shouldn't think ये सिर्फ पागल होते हैं जिनको काउंसलिंग की जरूरत होती है, गलत बात है. Because counseling, what counseling is, that it's like when I see a patient for counseling, I simply hold up a mirror to that patient to see, to find themselves, and then to turn that image into something that the woman wants for herself. Right? So that is what counseling is. Counseling is not tum pagalo. It's not about people who are mad. It's about people who want to become more intelligent about how to live their life. That is what counseling means. And it's about how to make the best of your options in your life, how to make good decisions that are sound emotionally and are healthy for you psychologically, and how to turn your negative thinking into something that is more constructive and positive. So the question is how you break the chain, right? So we do run lots of community education programs through our NGO, the Australasian Centre for Human Rights and Health. And there are a lot of other organizations who also run similar programs about learning about how to change your thinking so that you actually are able to bring up your children in a way that they will be more aware of these issues. They are also aware of these kind of issues that create power and imbalance and disrespect amongst each other. So, and parents for that need to learn parenting classes. So take active part in learning about these things when there are sessions running in your neighborhood. That's how we can break this chain. It won't happen if we don't take active part in the learning and educating ourselves. Yeah, thanks, Vidya. Zalea.
Bindiya, sorry. Many families, I'm not saying all, many families here, the in-laws are here, the extended families are here. When you're a new migrant, or even if you've been here for 5 years, 10 years, how do you confide? I mean, one, there is, your partner, your husband, you have your in-laws, and I know somebody who's been through this. In-laws really, really treated her badly, but she just took it for granted. I mean, she was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and go back and do dinner and clean up the house and look after, look after the in-laws, look after the extended family. And you know how we are. We have friends dropping in unannounced. If we have relatives living here, they drop in unannounced. And she had a full-time job. She was working. I think it was taking her 1.5 hours to come to work every day each way. She had 2 little kids. She had this, and this doesn't stop. So it's I mean, this is what I feel, and I may be totally wrong. I think as women, we are meanest to the women. And it's the mother-in-laws who never understand, the daughter-in-law's plight. They will, because they have been treated the way that they have by their mother-in-laws, they think it's a done thing. And this is one thing I keep asking my friends who have sons. What are you teaching your sons? What are you teaching them?
Yeah.
What do you say then?
Yeah, you're right, Saleha. So I was thinking of talking about this, that women, when they look after their families and their children, they sacrifice a lot of themselves. They need to understand one thing, that they need to look after their physical health, their mental health, and they need rest also. They cannot continue sacrificing their emotions, their life, their balance day on and on. So one thing is that they need to set boundaries. And first of all, they need to set boundaries within their mind and be a bit more assertive about it. I know it is easy to say, and it's very hard to do when you're living in a family where you have your in-laws living. And so it as Manjula said in the beginning, that it is going to take a long time to make this change. But having your own friendship network, keep that in mind, that you need to spend time for yourself. You should stay active. Exercise is a very, very important part of your life, not just physical health, but for your mental health also. So you should eat well, look after yourself, look after your physical health, mental health. Find time for meditation also. Do not just sacrifice yourself for others all the time. You are the person who you should love, and you should actually be responsible for your own well-being also. So that's your responsibility. Educating men at the same time is very important, I feel, to actually get out of these stereotypes where they have all these old family notions कि बहू है, घर का काम सारा वही करेगी, सुबह काम पे भी जाना है तो खाना बना के जाएगी, बच्चों को तैयार करके जाएगी और सब कुछ करेगी, और वापस आके फिर वही सब कुछ होगा. और उसको अपने लिए, अगर उसको अपनी फ्रेंड से मिलने जाना है तो कोई टाइम नहीं है कि बच्चे हम संभालेंगे पीछे से. बहुत सारी ऐसी बातें मैंने देखी हैं फैमिलीज में होते हुए, जहाँ ये सब होता है, एंड द वुमन फील्स कि आई हैव नो टाइम एट ऑल. सो वो सब चेंज करना पड़ेगा, वो सब एजुकेट करना पड़ेगा. और अगर पार्टनर एजुकेशन साथ साथ हो, जैसे as Manjula said कि the women who have boys, they should start educating their sons so that they should be future gentlemen and not just carrying on the same stereotypes in their future life for themselves and their wives.
Thank you. Manjula, you want to say something?
Yeah, so, this cycle of women abusing women, this is very peculiar to our culture. When we talk about domestic violence, we talk about violence usually men to women. But in our culture, women to women violence, it's so severe that it is unimaginable how women can be so mean to other women. And in the end, it is about abuse of power, right? Because in our culture, older people, हम सबकी बहुत respect करते हैं. The older people have the most respect in the house. And if they choose to abuse that power, then the person who gets most of that abuse is the daughter-in-law or the youngest daughter in the house. And it is so shameful to even imagine the kind of torture that the daughter-in-laws go through, and what Bindiya just described and you just described, that would be called modern day slavery. That is what slaves are. And any woman who is in that situation should really first talk to their husband and to say, this is not fair. I am not a slave, and even a slave would have a better time. A servant even has a time out. This is a 24-hour day job when everybody else is just simply eating, sleeping, and having good time.
Yes.
And this cannot be accepted. And if the husband doesn't change, then that is clear domestic violence. She needs to go get counseling and to start to think about how she can empower herself. Don't be passive. Don't feel like you are powerless. You have power. Use it. Don't just take it.
I have to say this because we keep talking about breaking the chain. Did you read the SBS story about these young girls who, when they asked for help, they're international students?
Yeah.
Did you read that?
Yes.
So on one of the on one of the social media groups, there were, I think, 1 or 2 men who actually thought this was terrible, in the sense, how could you do this to women? But the majority, 90% of the men on that group were blaming women. And this, and we live in the so-called civilized society. You would think people living in Australia and Melbourne, you would be more civilized, you would be able to respect women, because these men who are passing these comments, why are the girls taking screenshots? Why are they doing this? It's never the man's fault. It's always the woman's fault. They are going to be fathers, or they are fathers. And this is what they're teaching their sons, that, they cannot respect women. And that is my biggest fear, that, we keep talking, we say we live in a civilized society, and yet this keeps happening in a place like Melbourne, day in and day out. I normally don't comment on such things, but I'm absolutely appalled at all the misogyny, because this is what it leads to, isn't it? That men are superior, so they can say whatever they want, and behind keyboard, nobody knows who you are. So is there going to be a change? Do you think there are solutions? Is there a relief from all this? Or we just hope the youngsters to be better, the younger men or the little boys who are growing up to be better human beings than what we are seeing?
I feel, maybe we've said this before, but in a different way now, that I think what we're doing at present is, in the society, is that talking about empowering women. And as Manjula said, that, we need to educate the men as well. So I guess it would be really a good move if there would be something started in society to actually start the education of men and make them realize that what they are doing. So in family violence also, as well as making the change, something like in this article, because I have had a few patients who have actually given me this information confidentially, that it happens. It's first-hand information, and it's happened to them. So it is a very, shameful.
It is very shameful. It's embarrassing. Yes.
Absolutely, and especially it's basically exploitation.
Exactly. So Yeah. So these are the men who actually would say that they are morally superior human beings, who are incredibly, uh, you know, great fathers, and who have, they are respectable married men. And then to actually propose this to the students, and to imagine and to blame them in turn for saying, taking their screenshots or sending out requests, uh, to me means that they feel that this power thing, that they have the power, and that they are entitled to whatever they want. Whatever they want in this world is theirs to take. If they want to have, sex at home is boring with their wife, they're allowed to have a young woman if they want. And what I've been hearing quite a lot is that this is going on to quite a big extent in the community. And from my own experience with the victims of domestic violence, one of the things that the women tell me is that often the perpetrators perpetrate violence first by withholding sex and withholding love and affection. And they say to the women, "You are boring. I don't like you anymore. Your body is not attractive anymore," or things like that. And but outside, these are exactly the men who would be proposing to young women and saying things like, my wife doesn't like sex, and so it's a sort of an indulgence and a self-entitlement that just shows that the need to fulfill their desire is much greater than any discipline or any respect for anyone. It beggars belief, seriously.
Has there been any good news at all from what we've discussed, and with maybe your patients? Obviously, we won't take names. Has there been somebody who's been brave enough to, break the chain, make a life for themselves, and been happy, Bindiya?
Yeah.
Please tell me there is.
Yes, there have been a few cases like that as well. Women have been strong. They stood up for themselves, and they've actually made a life here. So they've made a change in their life for good.
That's really good. Manjula, you've had any success stories?
Absolutely. I've seen more than 500 women over the years, and I keep a count. And I can tell you that these are women who were victims of violence, who left their partners, majority of them, I'd say 90%. And they have been, once they get rid of this idea of shame and stigma, then our women are very educated. They are resilient. They are intelligent, and they are willing to do anything to start a new life. And women go and get new degrees, they get jobs, they become they take all kinds of important things, do things in life. And I've been amazed by their strength and ability to then support their parents back home, which they could never do before. As a daughter who is educated, the parents have spent a huge amount of money in your education. And if they need help, why can you not help them? Why should you not help them? Like the boys do, which they're not allowed to do. शादी हो गई तो पैसे भी उसके husband के हो गए. क्यों? Why? So and these women, once they leave their husbands, are able to do whatever they want, and they have that sense of empowerment that really makes them feel so good about themselves. But also, I'll also say that there are some men who do genuinely. There are a lot of men who genuinely want to support women, and they do. And we do work with a lot of those people, and as well as some men who have changed after actually learn after committing serious violence. They actually learn from attending men's behavior change program. And there are, so change is possible, absolutely possible. And we have to remain optimistic. And it is only optimism that keeps us going. Because if you really look at women's life, even if you just see what women's life was in 1960 when the feminist movement started, to 2020, we have come a long way.
Yes.
So change is possible, and we have to remain optimistic. And of course, our daughters will do better than us, and our daughters will do even better still. So we will hopefully, in a few generations, we will see no difference between boys and girls.
And I hope the mothers listening in today
I remain
will
optimistic.
Also, yes, and I hope the mothers listening in today will raise their boys better, and well.
One thing we haven't touched on is, suicides.
Yes, please.
Due to family violence. So recently we've heard about a lot of suicides happening due to family violence. I would let Manjula talk about that a bit more, but the message that I want to convey to the women is, rather than ending your life, it's better to get out and live your life the way you want to. Because if you end your life, it is going to affect a lot of people around you, and it's finished. But if you're not happy, if you're not safe, it's better to get out and live your life the way you want to. And over to Manjula about all this.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that death by suicide is a totally unnecessary thing to do, because even if you feel like you are stuck, totally stuck, and there is no hope left, there is no solution left, you are in a completely twisted negative thinking pattern, which is not real, which is irrational, because there is always a solution to the problem. It may not be the one you want or you thought about, but it is just as good. So if you thought your life can only be better if your husband gets better, well, maybe that solution won't come your way, but there is another solution, that you could make your own life for yourself. So remember that suicide is a permanent solution to a problem that is temporary, because problems change all the time. And there is always a solution. Just reach out for help. And a lot of the times people don't reach out for help feeling shame and embarrassed about, kya it's such a sharminda, main pagal hu kya, maine doctor ke paas jana hai, maine psychiatrist ke paas jana hai. Nahi, pagal nahi ho. You just need a bit of help. अगर पागल भी हो गए तो क्या हो गया, ट्रीटमेंट है हमारे पास, सब चीज़ों के ट्रीटमेंट है. अगर somebody can have a heart attack हो सकता है, तो दिमाग में भी तो प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है ना, उसमें क्या है, what is there to be embarrassed about? जो दवाई है, diagnosis है, treatments हैं, just get some help and you will be happier than ever before. So so we are currently working on a prevention program for suicide, but there is no need for this taking such a drastic action. Help is available, and as again I keep saying, go to your GP. They are your best friend. Your GP is your best friend. They know where to send you. If you need any help, they know what to do. Please go to your GP. Tell them. Only 2 words ही बोलने हैं तुमने. I need help. That's all you need to say. And now, before I go, I do want to tell people how to measure whether you need to get help. Okay, so this is a scale. You can measure yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. So if of a scale of distress, okay, so if you are on measure yourself as what's your level of distress. If 10 is the worst level, give yourself a rating today. If you are 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, you need help. You can somehow manage. 3, 4, 5, okay, borderline. You need to at least go and talk to your GP or talk to a friend. But if your distress level is above 5, you need help. Do not wait. Go and talk to your GP straight away. Above 5. 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. So measure your distress level every day and see if it is above 5, get help now. Okay.
Will one of you please translate that into Hindi, please? And when you say scale, how do they measure the scale? What is the feeling? I mean, for me, it is the meh feeling, not feeling good. But what would you describe as distress for people to figure out that, yes, this is a problem that they're having and they need to go to a GP right now or pick up the phone and talk to somebody?
Okay. तो अगर तुम्हारे को एंजाइटी हो रही है, एंजाइटी मतलब वो टेंशन या स्ट्रेस लेवल हो रहा है, अंदर किसी चीज का भी स्ट्रेस हो रहा है, या उदासी हो रही है, या दिल में घबराहट हो रही है, अपने आप को 10 अपने आप को रेटिंग दो. बिंदिया, was there a better word? अपने आप को रेटिंग दो कि 10 में से अपने आप को कितने नंबर, आपकी डिस्ट्रेस को या आपकी उदासी को या आपकी एंजाइटी टेंशन को 10 में से कितने नंबर दोगे. अगर 10 में से अपनी उदासी को या एंजाइटी को, टेंशन को या स्ट्रेस को 10 में से 10 दोगे तो इसका ये मतलब है कि आपको हेल्प एकदम से चाहिए और जीपी के पास जाओ. 5 अगर 10 में से 5 नंबर दोगे तब भी चाहिए. 5 between 5 and 10 तो हेल्प चाहिए. अगर 1 to 5 है तो आप शायद फ्रेंड के साथ बात करके या फैमिली के साथ बात करके अपनी एंजाइटी, डिप्रेशन या टेंशन को मैनेज कर सकते हैं. मगर 5 से ऊपर है तो आप एकदम से अपने जीपी के पास जाके बात करिए. बिंदिया, इज देयर अ बेटर ट्रांसलेशन देन दैट?
नहीं, आप सही कह रहे हैं कि अगर आप 1 से 10 के बीच में अगर आपको लगता है कि आप क्या महसूस कर रहे हैं, अगर आपको लगता है कि आपका जो स्ट्रेस लेवल है वो 5 से ज्यादा है तो आप बहुत बुरा फील कर रहे हैं और आप उसमें भी कुछ जैसे शुरू में मंजुला ने बताया था कि अगर आपकी नींद बहुत ज्यादा हो गई है या बहुत कम हो गई है, डिस्टर्ब नींद आ रही है अगर आपको, और अगर आप इवन कि अगर आपको बिना बात के भी रोना आ रहा है, अगर आपको मूड आपका ज्यादा अक्सर खराब रहता है, अगर आप बहुत जल्दी उखड़ जाते हैं, जैसे बच्चे शरारत कर रहे हैं तो बहुत जल्दी उनको डांट देते हैं, या आपकी किसी के साथ बहुत जल्दी गुस्सा आ जाता है, लड़ाई हो जाती है। तो इन तरह की चीजों को आप ध्यान में रखें और आप अपने आप को देखें कि आप अंदर से कैसे महसूस कर रहे हैं। और अगर वो स्केल 5 से ज्यादा हो जाता है तो आपको इमीडिएटली पता लग जाना चाहिए और आपको अपने जीपी के पास जाके हेल्प मांगनी चाहिए। और जैसे हमने शुरू में ही बताया, थ्रू आउट डिस्कशन हमने ये बताया है आपको कि हेल्प इज अवेलेबल फॉर यू, जस्ट टेक इट, ask for it.
We have a few really nice comments coming up, so I'm going to show this. Thank you, Mehek. This is just the beginning. I think we're going to do this every 3 months. I think no matter how much we talk, it's never enough. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We need to change the mindset, and I think it just starts with talking and us doing stuff. Suresh, we need more people like you to support us in this. And yes, the patriarchy should, I think it's time to end it. And I think it's the misogyny that needs to end. Men need to learn to respect their partners. If they can respect their mothers, I mean, and in India, we all are, everyone that we respect is a woman. Durga, Kali, Saraswati. And when it comes to respecting other women, it's like somewhere we just fail. Thank you,
Saleha, the thing is the thing is that we worship our goddesses. हम पूजा करते हैं इन देवियों की और goddesses की, काली, दुर्गा, सरस्वती, लक्ष्मी. मगर the gap between ordinary women and goddesses is so huge in a man's mind. That gap can never be filled. And I was just reading a research somewhere that the men feel a lot of men will give respect to women outside, but not at home. Yeah. There is something about being a female partner that men have a block in their mind. They cannot allow a female partner to be their equal. And they will, that is what gives rise to this lack of respect and domestic violence. And that attitude, needs to be really constantly, the men have to bring it to conscious level and say that, what is it that they are able to not respect their partner for? What is threatening them? Why are they threatened at home? I mean, this contempt, it's a cover-up for a deeper underlying layer of insecurity.
And inferiority.
If somebody feels, yes, if you feel genuinely good about you, you wouldn't have to dominate your female partner to show how superior you are.
Yeah.
And if there is no need to think you are perfect all the time, because you're not.
Yeah.
True. Again, I'll just show some more comments. Thank you, Shali. And a big thank you to Manjula and Bindiya for coming to the show. I just had to request them once. Suresh has something very nice to say. We need to educate our sons and behave. Consider your partner's contributions in carrying out family affairs.
Yep. So very good.
And Rubina, yes, this is what we've been talking about. Teach women how to be assertive.
Yep, absolutely.
Before we go, anything that you would like to say, Manjula, Bindiya?
Well, it's a mental health month.
Yes, Mental Health Awareness Month.
So please take care of your mental health. Yes, please take care of your mental health. Be happy, be positive, and do lots of exercise. Do lots of meditation and yoga. That's really good for you. And eat healthy food. Do not drink alcohol too much, no more than a glass every second day or so. Do not use substances like marijuana and other harmful drugs. And keep good company.
I think that's very important.
Yes, good.
Yes. So stay safe, stay healthy, look after your physical health and your mental health as well. Put yourself first. If you look after yourself, if you are well, you can look after others too.
Thank you. And thank you, Suresh and Shali. Thank you very much. Yes, I don't think I'm ever worried about discussing difficult subjects. And if I have guests like Manjula and Bindiya, it just makes it that much easier. Thank you so much, ladies. Really appreciate the time that you've taken.
Thank
and
you.
Good night to all my viewers. Thank you for the beautiful comments. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Shruti, we will give right values to our sons. I hope we all make better mothers than what I'm seeing at the moment. Thank you all. Good night. Stay safe. Stay well. Bye.
Good night. Good evening, and thank you all.